Hey, how you doing? It's Paul Seaver from Palm Beach Springs Water Company. This is an informational video about Aspirate H2O functional electrolyzed water, basically neutral ionic water for human consumption. And this is really about the model ES2000 on-demand unit for residential, basically the unit you put in your kitchen, but you could use it for small businesses too. It doesn't have to just be residential. But that's what the unit's engineered for, on-demand, personal use, not a commercial use, basically just the residential market. Okay, so these units became available in America in 2014. They've been on the market since the 90s, sometime in the 90s. So they're not new, they were just new to America. It's Japanese technology, it's high amp, dual polarity electrochemistry. So most people are familiar with alkaline ionized waters. Okay, so if you want to use that as the terminology, that's fine. It's not the terminology that I use. Okay, but just to make it simple so people understand, that's the whole idea. So we're talking about electrolyzed water. So the difference between an alkaline ionized generator, ionizer that you commonly know, like a Kagan or a Jupiter or such, and what's the difference between that and Aspirate? Well, those are single polarity nano membrane chambers. This is a high amp dual polarity loop chamber. Doesn't have a membrane. So they have one water in and two waters out. We have one water in and one water out. They increase the ionic product to 1.37, which is a nano cluster solution. We increase the ionic product to 6.45, which is single molecule, single ion, cluster free, highly charged. So that is just a few quick, simple differences right there. One other big major difference is they're too high in pH and they have too much hydrogen and it's not balanced with oxygen. We're neutral in pH and we have a perfect balance of hydrogen to oxygen. You have to have high amp dual polarity to do that. You can't do it with a single polarity membrane. That's just the way it goes. It's like asking a Volkswagen to put on a tractor plow and plow a field. It's not going to happen. So anyway, so we'll just kind of get into it. Here's my model ES2000 Aspirate H2O, and this is a system I built in 2015. It's a little over the top. I'll be the first to admit that. You certainly don't have to build anything like this. I did it for a certain reason. We won't get into it. It's not what the video's about. But anyway, that's the model ES2000 that you would normally put underneath a sink. And I built an on-demand half a gallon a minute RO for it. So this is my crazy RO. This thing's RO, DI, remineralized, back to neutralized, to electrolyzed, to post carbon blocks. So this is a crazy system. Got a big membrane up there. Everything's stainless steel on it. So this was my crazy R&D system, which I used to do a lot of different stuff with. And so what it did do is it led to the development of what we need for residential. So it led to the understanding of it, basically. Nobody makes an RO system for residential electrochemistry. None that I know of. Someone may come back and say, oh yes, we do. I've never seen one and I've never heard of one. And I got tired of trying to make systems work. So I made my own system specifically engineered just for electrolyzed water, ionizers, generators, whatever. They have very specific requirements. They gotta have a higher PSI because they need to run a certain PSI through the units. And your typical ones, by the time you run through all the filtration and remineralize them and refilter them on the back end of it, you're not gonna get that. And the other problem with ionizers, which a lot of people don't know, let me cover this very quickly. Okay, my specialty has to do with PFAS elimination. Okay, so this is a different subject. This is PFAS removal, because we're going to remove it with carbon block. We're not going to eliminate it by converting it to a gas. That's a whole different subject. Maybe one day, but it would be too expensive for a home. So we got to pick our battles. So what's the next best thing that we can do for a home? Well, we can remove it by coconut carbon block. Coconut carbon block is the #1 media for removing forever chemical, period. Nobody's going to dispute that. It is what it is, but it's not perfect. Okay, so we also, RO, a lot of people think RO removes it. It's not efficient. So it does remove some, but it's not efficient enough to call it the game changer. So we have CSM membrane, which is the best membrane for what we can do right now. There's none better. Okay, so those are the things, and then plus we have a special filter inside the system, and then of course the electrochemistry system for helping and aiding in the entire thing. Now, to get off, I got off track there, because what I was saying is what some people don't understand. Because I just got in this conversation with somebody the other day, and they said this to me. They says they like their electrochemistry generator because it purifies their water. No, it doesn't. That's not what they do. They increase the potential of the contents of the water. They don't purify it. If you have forever chemical in your water, and especially, we're going to talk about forever chemical, and you're running an alkaline ionizer, which puts out a negative charge, you just made that chemical stronger. You just made that chemical stronger. You just increased the potential of that chemical, because that's what a negative charge does to that chemical. If you wanted to destroy it, you would have to use a positive charge. That's just the way it works. It has to do with the hydrogen at the head of it. So if you give it more electrons, and your alkaline is your hydrogen. So if you give it more hydrogen and more electrons, you're just giving it the fuel that needs to be stronger. So think about that. You need filtration. You got to get that stuff out of your water, especially if you're going to do something like electrolyze it. Electrolyzing does not purify water, not in the context of what we're talking about. There is some systems that can, but that's a whole different subject, and you're not about to spend $500,000. So forget it. It's not going to happen. It's not worth the price of the machine. The point is that is a misconception. Electrochemistry increases the potential of everything that electrolyzes it. It makes it stronger. It makes it better. The chlorides in salt are converted to chlorine. It makes them stronger. You see what I'm saying? So when you electrolyze the basic components, you get the hydrogen. When you electrolyze the acidic components, you get the reactive oxygen. So it's creating stronger properties from the things that are in the water. So it's very important to have proper filtration. And to me, proper filtration is reverse osmosis, period. And with coconut carbon block, you got to have them doubled up like that. Let's go in the other room and look at the system. That's my specialized system right there for PFAS elimination. This is my other room where I got a bunch of equipment, which I had to turn everything off because I tried this video already, but every time the pump kicked down, you couldn't hear a stinking thing I said. So I had to turn the entire system off. So nothing's running. So I can't actually show you anything. Well, I can show you a little bit running, but not too much. Anyway, this is the system right here for residential. This is my system that's on my shop wall for R&D, so that I can keep an eye on it and head off any problems at the past, should there ever be any, or make any changes to it to upgrade it to make it even better yet. Which I don't know what I would do at this point, but so this system is actually going to get certified, and I'm not going to mention where. So we're working on that now, and our road is just pressurizing. So we're working on that now, and so when it's done. But it takes a long time to do that kind of stuff. So what we have is we have a coconut carbon pre-filter at 5 micron. We got the CSM membrane. We got a pH neutralizer Then we got the electrolyzer, along with its filtration. And then when we come back through a 10 micron coconut carbon block filter. Now the reason we're using a 10 micron is we don't want to put too much back pressure on this unit. Anybody who knows electrolyzers or generators knows that they got to be flow through. You can't put any back pressure on them. So even 10 micron is really, it's kind of pushing the limitations. A lot of people use 20, but it's too hard to find 20s in a slim line. So I use 10s, and then I just recommend that they don't go any longer than 3 months. And then you just watch your flow lights. If your flow light starts coming to low, or you start getting a lot of run out afterwards, after you shut it off, that's an indication you're building up back pressure to change your filter. That's easy stuff there. So originally I did a video to show something that's very important. Now anybody who already has a system of any kind knows that once you get a system like this of any kind, you start using that water for everything. Everything. Water in plants, water in the dogs, water in the kids, washing your hair. I mean, I've heard all sorts of things what people use the water for. You know, but the key is they start using a lot of it. So if you have it hooked up to a regular RO, it becomes very frustrating very quickly. I've heard it over and over again, and I've changed out quite a few of them after warning people ahead of time. The problem is when you go to install a unit somewhere and they already have an under the sink RO unit and they want to use that under the sink RO unit because they already paid for it. And you try to tell them it's not going to work, it's not matched, you're not going to be happy. And then they end up getting a couple of glasses of water at a time, and that takes them half a day to recover because they're not used to using that much water. That's all they're used to doing anyway, so they never noticed it. Now all of a sudden they're using that water for everything and the system can't keep up. So that's why what I did was, and then the other thing is, the pre-filtration doesn't really matter so much, it's the post-filtration and the pH neutralizer. By the time you go through the pH neutralizer especially, because that gives you a big pressure drop, and you go through the final coconut carbon filter, your pressure's low. It's low. It doesn't want to, if you only have a 40 or 50 PSI system, and so then after you get a couple of gallons out of the pressure tank, then it's low. Then it's just trickling out on low, whatever. So the thing is you gotta do a 60 PSI system, but nobody freaking offers one. Everybody uses all the cheap junk. You see the white housings and the white heads. You can't run 60 PSI pumps on those, right? They're using cheap fittings. They're using cheap membrane housings. They're using cheap pH neutralizers. They don't want to run about 40, 50 PSI. 40, 50 PSI is not enough to run one of these systems and push through those other two components, okay? So what do? I upgraded everything to 100 PSI or above and put a 60 PSI pump and pressure switch on. A true 60 PSI, 150 gallon a day pump with a 60 PSI pressure switch. So we're getting the true 60 PSI, all right? And it's 150 gallon a day membrane. Now you're not going to go through 150 gallons a day, but that has to do with the recovery time. So if you want a good recovery time, you gotta get the bigger membranes. And so for residential under the sink, you're pretty much limited to 150 to 200. But I didn't use the 200 because I want a matched system. And there isn't a pump that's specified for 200. I deal with some very specific people, and people will say, oh, but you don't have to worry about the numbers have to all match up perfectly, or you don't use it. So anything that's a 150 gallon per day can line up if it's not rated for that. You can't say, well, with a little Kentucky windage we make it, you know, they don't go for that. It's all got to be matched, okay, because it's going for certification. So we got 250 gallon a day, 60 PSI pump with a 60 PSI pressure switch. We got all the components are rated for above 60 PSI, so we don't have to worry about no leaks or nothing nowhere. And it's a beautiful system. So one of the things, you know, like I began to say about how much water you can take. People get a glass or two, you know, maybe they take a half gallon, and now, you know, they can't get the flow that they need, you know, in order to electrolyze and everything, or even just wait for the water to come out, right? So you have to have a booster pump. So that's what the 60 PSI booster pump is all about. Now, this is an under the sink system. So that's as big of a tank as you could put in there. It's a 3.5, 4-gallon tank. All right, that's as big of a tank as you could put underneath a standard sink. But you could put any size tank on this system you want to if you need more volume and you're not underneath a kitchen sink. You know, say you're at a horse barn, or you're at a dog kennel, or you're at a restaurant or something like that, and you need more volume. You don't want to wait for the makeup time. You just put a bigger pressure tank in. That's all. And you let it make up the water when you're not using it. Okay, but the bottom line is this. For residential, single person use, even if you, now, I did this already trying to make a video, but the problem is I have to turn the system on because the system feeds the water to this. And if the system's on, you can't hear me talking. So you're just going to have to take my word for what I'm about to tell you, and I'm not going to lie to you, because otherwise people are going to come back and start giving me 1-star reviews. Now I'm 5 stars across the board. I'm not going to break it now. I tell people the truth. I'm not a salesman. I'm in R&D. So I don't even know how to lie to people. All right. The big problem is how much water can you get out of one single serving before you lose your optimal flow. Because when you first turn this on, hang on. That's why that's full of water, because I just did this. Let me see, we might have enough water pressure to get the green light. Because I got the whole systems off. Let's see. Yeah, see the green light right here? That's optimal flow, okay? I gotta turn it off now because we don't have no water feeding. Okay, so that's the optimal flow. So it doesn't mean it has to be on that green light. There's a red light above and a red light below that says high and low. Now all that is an indication of a half a gallon a minute. If it's on low, that means it's lower than a half a gallon a minute. And if it's on high, it means it's higher than a half a gallon a minute. If it's on low and the light shuts off, then it's too low to electrolyze. If it's on high and a warning beeper comes on, or if you have it hooked up to a sink, it just has a pressure release. But anyway, it'll shut down, and because it doesn't want that high flow. I mean, you shouldn't be on any kind of a system that can give it that much anyway. But you're going to ruin the unit if you try to shove too much pressurized water through it. That's not what they're designed for. And originally they're designed for the countertop, and they got this little funky deal that goes onto your sink, and they sit on the countertop, and they got these hoses that go all over the place, and they may go for that in Japan, but let me tell you something, these rich folk in South Florida, they're not having that on their countertops. You better have a good system, and you better stash that down in the sink cabinet and only have a nice little faucet on top where they can show off to their friends their perfect water, or they're not going to be happy customers, trust me. So, and we make happy customers. We custom install them no matter where they want them, no matter how they want them. But the bottom line is, you could fill this 3-gallon glass container to the top, 3 gallons, and never lose your optimal flow. But that's the limit. After that, you'll lose your optimal flow. It doesn't mean you're done. It just means it comes off a green and it hits low. And so you can still go from there, you know, because the light's still on. But I'm talking about optimal flow. 3 gallons of optimal flow that takes 3 minutes and 45 seconds. So for 3 minutes and 45 seconds, you got optimal flow. That's crazy. Nobody has a system like that anywhere. I don't care. And that's what you're paying for. That's what you're paying for. It's not a cheap system. This entire system, as you see it, is $3,999, which $24.99 is the generator. The rest is the RO system. Okay, so that's what it is, and you get your money's worth. It's worth every dime of it. So you get this entire system here for less than what you get with some of those antiquated single polarity alkaline nano generators. You get my entire system, the best of the best of the best, for a third of what they want for outdated dinosaur. I won't go any further than that because I don't want anybody to get mad at me. You know, but you know, my whole thing about filtration and everything else. That's what I'm saying. You know, you're paying for marketing. You know, you're paying for somebody's, you know, like anything else. You know, some of these people, they've been out for a long time, and they did a really good job marketing, and they made a really good name for themselves. And I'm not saying that their equipment is junk. I'm just saying it's different. It's different stuff. You have to know the differences between the two. But what I am saying is that even if you have one of their systems, I don't care if you have one of my systems or buy one of my systems. If you have one of their systems, get one of these. You owe it to yourself to get one of these. You should not be consuming those waters without a proper filtration system on it. And so I'm more than happy to send one of these to you. I got instructional videos. I'll send the pieces to you. I got an instructional video now online on my YouTube where I'll send you just the components, and you can save yourself $500. Put it together yourself. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, put it together yourself. I don't care. I don't have to put it together. I'd rather put it together for you so I know it's done correctly and everything. But I got instruction video online. I show you how to put it together. I'm actually going to put some pictures and stuff online of different components. And I even decided on my do-it-yourself kit, certain things like the assembly for the top of the tank and the assembly for the ASO valve and the pressure switch. I'm just going to assemble those. I'm going to just give those assembled. I don't want you to do it wrong. The whole idea is you want to save some money, do the labor yourself, have some fun, put the thing together, but I want to make sure you do it right so that it works correctly. You know, I'm not just being lazy. I'm trying, you know, some people want to save some money, and I save you $500 and you want to do that yourself. So that's a pretty good deal. And the other thing is I work alone, so I get a little backed up sometimes. So I got no problem with a little help. And if you assemble your own, that's like getting a little bit of help. So there's no problem there. These are very popular systems. So anyway, and I care about how they're put together. That's why I like to put them together myself. I don't have anybody else helping me. I hand build each one of them myself. You know, that's what you're paying for. You're paying for nothing but the best of the best components, and you're paying for somebody who gives a crap to put it together right for you. And each one of them absolutely perfect, absolutely the same. So it doesn't matter if somebody calls me with any kind of question or anything. I don't even have to think about what system do they have. I know what system you have. I built it. There you go. So that's it. That's my Esprit system. It's pretty fantastic. All the other stuff, you know, showing meter readings and stuff. These meters aren't accurate. Everybody knows that. It gives you a reduced water down, depending on what your TDS is. A lot of people don't understand. If you have a low TDS, you can't get near as reduced water as if you have a higher TDS. One of the reasons in the alkaline ionizers they can get lower reduced numbers because they got a higher TDS. Because anyway, but it's balanced. It's balanced hydrogen and oxygen. It's balanced through the conversion of hydrogen and ozone. So that's how that's balanced. You can only get that with dual polarity. You got your single ion, single molecule, highly charged for 100% absorbability. You have got your clean RO water. You're down 40, 50 parts per million, so you're not getting too much TDS. We got double carbon block, you know, for removing as much as you can. The only way to find out is if you need any more filtration on it than that is you got to send your water in to get tested. But I would say at a starting point, your water's 1,000,000% better at the very least. And some of the waters down here, and some of my customers, luckily enough for them, they're going to be able to participate in the study that they're doing on this equipment for certification. Because I got so much equipment with ROs scattered all over South Florida, and South Florida is just so ate up with PFAS, it makes it real easy. It makes it real easy. The systems are already set up. I'll just have to go to the individual places and grab the water, including right here. So hopefully by the end of the year, we're going to have that whole thing up and done, and then we're going to have, it doesn't matter, it's going to be certified one way or another. It's going to have performance results on it. Whether or not it's 100% is besides the point. With double coconut carbon block, it's going to be up 98, 99 regardless. So that's just a given right off the bat. But you got to change your filters though. That's the thing. When the filters start to get clogged up with chemical, you got to change them. You know, otherwise you're not doing yourself any good. I go sometimes to places, people haven't changed their filters in years. And I try to get them on a schedule, call them up, tell them, hey, you got to change your filters. Because anytime I sell something to somebody, they go on my schedule. You know, if it's residential, within 3 months, I give them a holler. If it's commercial, it's every 30 days, because they can throw out more water. So anyway, that's it. That's my Esprit H2O and my custom RO just for electrochemistry, ionizers, and generators for alkaline and/or neutral waters. And if you need one, just get a hold of me. I am more than happy to build it for you. Heck, I'll be excited to do it. I'll probably start on it right away as soon as you get off the phone. Hope to hear from you.